Hi, boys and girls. I'd like to tell you more about the story of Passover. More than 3,000 years ago, the Jews had to leave their land, Canaan, now called Israel, and go live in Egypt. They had to leave because there was drought and famine in their country, and they went to Egypt where food was plentiful. Joseph, a Jew, was in charge of the move. At first, because Joseph was such an important man, the king of Egypt made them feel very welcome, and for hundreds of years they were treated well by the other pharaohs, lived safely, and grew in numbers. Then a new pharaoh became the ruler of Egypt. He was afraid that the Jews would take over the country because there were so many of them, and he decided to make slaves of the Jews. Setting policemen and slave drivers over them, he made them build huge palaces and cities. He also issued cruel laws and made their lives miserable. In those days, there lived a Jewish woman named Yocheved. She gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, and she loved him so much that she decided to risk her life and hide him from the Egyptians. As the baby grew older, she realized that she could hide him no longer, so she prepared a basket for the baby and put it in the weeds alongside the Nile River, and she asked her older daughter Miriam to hide and observe what happened. That day, a princess, the daughter of Pharaoh, went with her maidens to swim in the river when they heard a cry. They soon found the basket, opened it, and saw the beautiful baby inside. The princess picked up the baby and decided at that moment to adopt him. She called the baby Moses, which in Hebrew means brought him out of the water. Miriam, watching, came out of hiding and told the princess she knew of a good nurse for the baby. She ran home and told her mother. Yocheved went to the princess and became the baby's nurse. Moses grew up as an Egyptian prince in the palace, but it was his real mother who took care of him and later told him he was a Jew. One day when Moses was a young man, he saw how the Egyptian slave drivers were cruel to the Jewish workers. He came upon one of them being really mean to a slave to make him work harder. Moses got very angry and hurt the man. In fear of being punished, Moses fled the desert. He lived there for many years, married, and worked as a shepherd. One day, when attending to his sheep, Moses saw an unusual sight, a burning bush which did not burn down or become ashes. When he got closer to the bush, he heard the voice of God. God told him to go back to Egypt, free the Jewish people from slavery, and take them back to the promised land. Eager to do as he was told, Moses went to Pharaoh. "Let my people go," he said, but Pharaoh refused. Then Moses, with the help of God, punished Pharaoh and the Egyptian with 10 different plagues. While the plagues lasted, Pharaoh promised that the Jews could leave Egypt if Moses would stop the plagues. But each time the plague stopped, Pharaoh changed his mind and would not let them go. And then came the 10th plague. God instructed Moses to tell the Jewish people to mark their doorposts that night, and then it got passed over, and that's how we got the name of Passover. And then Pharaoh realized this was really not a good thing. He really should just Jews, you really should leave now, because he didn't want any more bad things happening. So for fear that he would change his mind again, the children of Israel hurriedly packed their food and other belongings, and since they didn't have time to wait for their bread dough to rise, they took it with them in order to bake it later. This bread, which did not rise, stayed flat and thin, and today we call it matzah, or unleavened bread. The Jews set out on foot from Egypt, but when they arrived at the Red Sea, they looked behind and saw Pharaoh's army was chasing them. They realized that Pharaoh had changed his mind again. As the Egyptians got closer and closer, a miracle happened. Moses raised his staff, and the waters of the Red Sea parted, leaving a passage of dry land for the Jews to cross. When the Egyptian army tried to follow them across, Moses raised his staff again, and the water returned, drowning the rest of everything in the water. Thus, the Jewish people were saved from slavery and continued their journey towards the promised land.